little bit about what I've been doing wrong for 35 years. No.
Well, it's going to take a lot more than 2 segments to do that.
You know it.
But
we have a great guest.
Jim Epley, president of JD's Tax and Financial Services here in Las Vegas, joins us here in studio. Jim, how are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Good. Well, welcome to Vegas Unwrapped. Thank you for coming in. We greatly appreciate you taking time. And although your busy time of year, April 15th, is behind you, obviously, you know, no rest for the weary because people still have tax issues, questions, payroll, financial things, 365. So what do you do at this time of year? What's prevalent for you after tax season?
Well, Aaron, what we specialize in is IRS representation. So people that are in trouble with the IRS, whether it be an audit, whether it be collections, bank levies, wage garnishments, we really get out there and help the taxpayers protect them from the IRS.
Well, it's important, certainly, because the IRS seems to be, you know, one of the last holdouts of, can you beat the system? Can you fight them? Can you win? Because, you know, they're a very, very intimidating group of people to the average consumer out there, and of course taxes is a big issue. Do most of the people that you see, Jim, are they already terrified when they come to you?
Definitely. We give them a warm shoulder to lean on and somewhere to, you know, some tissue to give them. By the time they leave our office, they feel very unburdened. The IRS is definitely a heavy weight on many, many shoulders. It's just a mystery of the unknown, and I've been in business for 17 years now, since 97, represented taxpayers that long as an enrolled agent, so I'm licensed to represent anybody in any of the 50 states before the IRS. And we've helped solve many, many cases, and it's very frightening to them when they get that letter in the mailbox. Certified mostly, they don't pick it up, or uncertified, they're just in fear of even opening it.
I've had that experience, and dealing with an enrolled agent changes the playing field has changed. So now you have the representation, just like having a lawyer in a criminal case. You know, you have somebody there that you can depend on or rely on. And over the years, I would imagine that since you've developed a relationship with the IRS and its agents and stuff like that, they probably work with you much more so than they would if an individual would come to them.
Yeah, that's correct. Us as enrolled agents, we're held to a higher ethic level to begin with. So they know when we go in there, we're going to hold ourselves to a professional level. We put ourselves they put us on more of a plateau than the average taxpayer that just doesn't know the laws in and out. And us as enrolled agents, typically, if we've been in business any number of years, such as I have, and my staff, cumulatively, we have over 100 years of experience. We go into the IRS, and a lot of IRS staff, auditors, collection agents, they might have 5 years, 10 years experience at the most, many times. So we actually go in there and educate them, believe it or not, on their own laws.
That's amazing. And so usually you can resolve the situations to a very great extent, I would imagine. People paying what, 10, 15, 20%, or more or less based on what it is that's happened to them, right?
Definitely. We had our biggest success was last year. We had a taxpayer owed the IRS almost $1 million.
Oh, jeez.
$948,000. We ended up settling that case for $3,500.
Wow. That is
That's huge.
That's wild.
What is the most common things mistakes that taxpayers make that put them in the crosshairs of the IRS for audits and getting that dreaded letter in the mail? What's a common thread that you're seeing?
Well, believe it or not, most taxpayers want to follow the law, they just don't know how. They do their own returns and they put stuff on the wrong lines, or they don't put everything on there. Sometimes they don't take all their deductions, and by just not knowing what line it goes on, or taking too many deductions that they're not allowed, that's some of the things that'll trigger an audit. Most of the time it's just errors that are human errors. We see a lot of taxpayers that'll use something like a TurboTax, and their wages, for say, will be supposed to be on line 7. It's the first number on the tax return, and we'll see it on various lines, even using TurboTax. So we'll correct those issues. when they come and see us, or if they've already got the letter from the IRS that says, hey, you didn't have wages, you didn't put your wages on line 7. They put them on the return, but the IRS is looking on line 7.
Now, have you ever had a situation where a taxpayer, sent in his return and then got a letter from the, well, not so much from the IRS. See, let's use the TurboTax, not that was the one, but let's use that as an example, where they ask you to track your return, and you track your return, and it says, you get a notice that says, the IRS is keeping your return for whatever reason. You will be contacted by them within 30 or 60 days, and they don't contact you. What happened to the money? Where did it go? Is that a specific thing that happens, and does it happen often?
Well, it definitely happens. The IRS will hold a refund maybe for a past balance due. They could hold it for a child support debt. They could hold it for any type of government debt, whether it be a student loan, child support, or back taxes. So they'll withhold that refund, and they'll usually notify the taxpayer with a letter. But it's kind of vague. It's a little ambiguous as far as the letter goes. So they need to come and seek out a professional to really interpret that letter and figure out what's going on, and we can pull the transcripts from the IRS, and those transcripts will give us a lot of detail. It's the inside report, basically.
So if something like this would happen, you would be one of those types of people or services that one would go to if this situation occurred.
Definitely. It's what we do all day long after tax season. As Aaron said, during tax season we do a lot of returns. That's mainly what we're doing during tax season. The rest of the year we're handling those audits, those pesky IRS letters, the wage garnishments, the bank levies, any type of trouble somebody's having with the IRS or a government entity, even the state unemployment department or the state department of taxation, even across the border franchise tax board. We handle pretty much any of the municipality taxing authorities.
And all you'd need is basically a copy of the return and maybe the W-2s or 1090s or whatever, and you'd be able to contact them and find out why the person didn't get their return.
Yeah, typically we have to start with what's called a power of attorney. It just lets us represent the taxpayer in that capacity for the IRS. It's not a general power of attorney where we can do anything else other than just represent them before the Internal Revenue Service.
Nice. I will advise the person I know that this happened to, and that's one referral right out of Vegas on Wrap.
All right.
That'll work, for sure. What's the easiest way that you communicate with the IRS? I mean, how do you take that intimidating factor away from the IRS?
Well, it does come from experience. It comes from education. I'll tell you, when I started 17 years ago, the first letter I got from the IRS, I felt the same way. I thought, oh shoot, what did I do wrong?
Right.
And I opened it, figured out how to solve the problem, and then I started getting excited. I get excited when I get letters from the IRS. Client calls me with an IRS letter. I'm like, bring it in. Let's see it.
Bring it on.
I'm excited about it.
Is there a statute of limitations that after a certain number of years, if you owed, let's say, X number of dollars in back taxes, that it drops off the charts?
There is actually. It's 10 years from the date of assessment. So if you filed a tax return for 2001, you filed that April 15 of 2012, the statute of limitations on that is April 15 of 2012. I'm sorry, so if you filed a 2001 return in April 15 of 2002, April 15 of 2012, the 10-year statute of limitations has typically run. There are a couple things that can extend it. If you file bankruptcy in the interim or filed what's called an offer in compromise with the IRS, or if you're out of the country for more than 6 months, there's a couple other things that'll extend it. But yeah, if you can stay off the radar for 10 years, that's one way of doing it. It's tough. It's a long 10 years, but it can be done.
I imagine it is.
Just use a pseudonym. That's all.
Ricky Cash.
Right, exactly.
Good job.
Exactly.
Yeah, terrific.
Give out some contact information, phone number, website, address. Let our listeners know how to get in touch with you.
Well, we're actually right near the radio station here. We're on 2300 South Jones Boulevard. We're just north of Sahara in a complex called Falcon Park. You can reach us by phone at 838-1040. And our website is www.jdstax.com.
1040, huh?
Yeah,
Clever.
absolutely.
All right.
All right, we come back on the other side of the break. We're going to find out about some of the other services that Jim's business offers other than tax relief and support. Everything from payroll services on down to financial services.
And that financial planning is also something that people need to hear about, because if they do make some money, they need to save it.
Absolutely.
Not like us.
Vegas and Wrap, Phillips and Cash, Jim Epley, JD's Tax Service, here in the house. We'll be right back.
Claire?
Traditional medicine treats the disease. However, if your health continues to worsen despite aggressive treatment, sometimes the question is no longer what else can be done, but